It's time to smash. Whiskey smash, that is. Let me show you how to make this classic cocktail. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Matt, I'm the whiskey nerd, and like I said, this week I'm making one of those classic whiskey cocktails, a whiskey smash. This cocktail has been around for a very long time. It was first published by Jerry Thomas in 1887, and he made it kind of famous, but it was probably being made before that because it's a very simple, kind of classic whiskey cocktail. It got very popular in the 80s and 90s when Dale DeGroff, kind of really the king of cocktails, he made it very, very popular, as he called it one of those whiskey cocktails who you can make for people who say they don't drink whiskey, because it's a very simple, very tasty kind of twist on that classic kind of whiskey sour, but it's a little fresher, it's a little lighter, and it's a little less sour. It uses whiskey, obviously. It uses lemons, obviously, sugar, and a little bit of mint leaves to really add a bit of fresh, nice, bright flavors to the cocktail. But importantly, for the lemons, we're not just using the juice of the lemon. We're gonna muddle those lemons at the bottom of a shaker tin to really release the juice, but also the oils, those nice, fresh, citrusy oils from the outside of the lemon. That'll give you much more kind of bright, fresh, tasty flavors that make the cocktail different to a whiskey sour, but still in that same kind of classic vibe. For the whiskey in this cocktail, I'm using the Tyrconnell single malt Irish whiskey. This is a great little whiskey. If you didn't see my review of it earlier on this week, check out a link. There'll be a link up there, there'll be a link down below, but it's suffice it to say, it's a nice Irish whiskey. Comes in at 43% ABV. It was double distilled, it's a single malt whiskey, so it has this nice kind of rich caramel, kind of biscuity flavor to it, but also has some nice kind of lighter, fruity, almost citrusy notes that I think pairs really well with this cocktail. So that's enough talking about the cocktail. It's time to make it. Like I said, we're going to get our shaking tin, but first we're going to get a muddler, and we're going to muddle up 3 wedges of a lemon in there. Now that wasn't a really big lemon, so I've just used kind of 3/4 of it. If you've got a really big lemon, maybe you want to use maybe just like slightly less than that, maybe like 2/3 of it, but I'll leave it up to you depending on how lemony and how big your lemons are going to be. So I'm going to give this a really good muddle to really get as much of the juice off of those wedges, but also the oils off those skins. Okay, I think that is nicely muddled now, so we're going to get ready to add in our ice and the rest of our ingredients. We're going to pop a nice rock of ice into there, and we're going to measure our ingredients. It's going to be 60 ml or 2 ounces of our Tyrconnell single malt Irish whiskey. Like I said, this comes in at 43% ABV, so it does have a nice amount of weight, it does have a nice amount of presence in the cocktail. And also it does have a really nice kind of almost honeyed sweet flavor, so I think it pairs really well. For the sugar syrup, we're only going to go in with about 20 ml because this cocktail isn't going to be as sour as like a whiskey sour. It's only going to be a bit sweeter, a bit lighter, so we don't need as much sugar. Plus we're using an Irish whiskey, so we're only going to go in with about 20 ml of sugar syrup, whereas normally I might go in with a full 30 ml if I'm using 2 ounces of whiskey. Lastly, we're going to go in, well, the original recipe said 4 mint leaves, but my mint leaves from my mint plant are kind of small this time of year, so I'm going to go in with 8 mint leaves, and then we're just going to pop the top on our shaker tin and shake it away for about 30 seconds just to get everything nice and cold. Okay, I think that is nicely chilled now, so we're going to bang the top off our shaker tin and we're going to ready to strain it out. We're going to be serving it into a rocks glass, and we're going to be serving it onto a nice, another fresh rock of ice. Now, because we shook that mint in there, it's going to have given us a lot of flavors, but it's also probably going to give us a lot of bits. So if you don't really like the little bits of like pulp in your cocktail, you can double strain it. But I personally like my whiskey smashes to have a little bit of that flesh, to have a little bit of that character into the cocktail. So I'm just going to go for a single strain onto my cocktail, just like that. And I can see that there's a few little bits of mint leaf in there, so that's going to make the cocktail feel a little bit fresher and a little bit vibrant. For a traditional garnish, you do put a mint sprig in here, but like I said, my mint plant is not doing very well, so I'm just going to use a nice little wedge of lemon into there, just like that, And that right there is how I make a whiskey smash. Now, before I taste this cocktail, if you're new here, scroll down, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. I put out whiskey reviews on Wednesdays, like the review of the Tyrconnell single malt. I also put out cocktail recipes featuring whiskey like this every Friday. So if you want to see more like that, make sure you hit subscribe. But now let's taste this cocktail. That's lovely. It's very bright, it's very vibrant. The oils, the citrusy oils from the outside of that lemon, they really do make the cocktail brighter, fresher, almost like a springtime cocktail, because you get a lot of that almost like floral aromatics. The mint leaves, it's not really strong, it's not really overpowering, it just makes the cocktail feel, again, a bit more floral, a bit more aromatic. You might have noticed there's no Angostura bitters, there's no bitters of any kind in this cocktail, because you've got those nice citrusy oils, you've got those flavors from the mint coming through, so you don't really need to use all those extra kind of bitters to add flavor into your cocktail. It's just a very nice, very tasty, very kind of simple to make cocktail. Like Dale DeGroff said, if you have someone who says they don't drink whiskey, they'll never drink whiskey, they'll never like whiskey, give them one of these because they might be pleasantly surprised, because it is a very, very tasty cocktail to make. But maybe you have a different kind of classic whiskey cocktail that's your favorite. Let me know down in the comments below what that is, because I'd love to hear from you. But for now, I'm going to keep on enjoying this classic cocktail, and I'll see you next time. Sláinte.